Hey, this will be like the final video as far as I can tell. I was going to cover living Christianity, but I think I made that point, emphasized it enough um, many times that we desire people to have true faith in these promises and a living relationship with Christ that I don't need to make a separate video for that. So today we're just going to talk about structure of our church, and that I mean more of our denomination, the Church of the Lutheran Brethren, and then finally just opportunities. I know I've gone on a lot longer in these videos this time as we touch some more controversial or unique things. But anyway, let me just jump in. So we'll start with our church structure. We are a synod. So our synod offices are located in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. We're actually, I guess technically the Canadian version. It exists, so to speak, as a separate entity. Though in reality we're fairly small and a lot still goes through the American offices. And they offer us a heap of support, though we'd have Harold Rust currently is our president. I guess I shouldn't say that if I use these videos again, but yeah, he's the president of the Canadian CLB. And he's at the River Church. But anyway, there's a congregational idea nevertheless. So we have a basic structure and a lot of support and a theological council and a seminary that we run together and missions that we do together. And that was initially how we were formed, as a missionary sort of agency that became more rather quickly. So we have the synod, but then we understand ourselves to be congregational in a sense where we think the congregation is in charge. And the congregation each congregation itself exists as its own body and its own thing. And I think even in our elder talk there with Peter, this kind of comes against the papal idea of some high authority telling other people what to do. And I think that's just it's a bit absurd when you read in First Peter. This is Peter himself, and the Pope claims to be Peter's heir. You see how Peter talks to his fellow elders. He doesn't say, "I, Peter, who am the supreme elder." He says, "The elders who are among you, I exhort, I who am a fellow elder." And so obviously Peter had authority because he knew Christ and stuff, so people were going to listen to him. But he's still, even this guy who literally saw Jesus, literally ministered with Jesus, he's careful, he's calm not to step on other people's toes and not to lord over another congregation. If there's other congregations that are established, they're their own congregation. And we kind of see the local church as kind of really a thing unto itself that can join in with other churches to work together for forwarding the gospel. And there's different ways you can organize that, and they can be fine. You can have, like, our Augsburg Confession says, we're not necessarily anti-pope. We're not anti having one kind of leader or something. If you wanted to have something like that, generally to organize things, just we're against a domineering force that takes away the local rule of the congregation. And so while the synod does lots of things and works together, we always finally understand that the congregation itself controls what actually goes on. And so in that sense, we're congregational. The congregation votes on things. And the big thing that we need to stay in touch with is the statement of faith, that we're in accord with the statement of faith. And otherwise, then we might be kicked out of the Lutheran Brethren church. But otherwise, the denomination's not to be overly, in any sense, overbearing. And maybe some of us here felt that a little bit when they were going through the controversy. The denomination doesn't sweep in and just throw people out. In some churches, basically a bishop would just kick the pastor out and impose a new pastor. And no, rather, right, we have a vote on who the pastor is. We vote on elders, we vote on things. And so we have these things given before the congregation. I guess here's a good place to talk about membership and what we desire and what kind of a distinctive of Lutheran Brethren church is about membership. We have always held this idea of a living membership. And so, I guess this will go in a bit of a different direction than I was thinking, but that the people who are part of the church body would the members, the voting body, would actually be confessing Christians. So a lot of denominations, you're baptized as a child and you just kind of eventually become a full voting member when you turn an age, maybe 18 or 21. and then you can vote. What kind of started our whole denomination was a pastor who was preaching kind of a more hot gospel got kicked out of his church because there were many unbelievers that were just members of the church and they could just vote him out. And so from that point on, he started with a group of people from his church. They started a new church and they made it part of their constitution that only people who have made a confession of faith or who have been met with the elders and talked about some way shown that they have a living relationship with Christ. And of course, we don't see the heart, so it's never about that. But just it's the sort of thing we desire as best as we can to keep the membership living. And so with this, we use church discipline as well, where we do for members we will put them under church discipline if they're living a overtly sinful life and showing themselves to be in wickedness and not walking with the Lord. Again, that's a whole discussion. We're not doing that to hurt them. We want to draw them back in and just give them a warning that, hey, you're going the wrong way. This isn't good. We want to be careful with how we use that, but that was kind of a big emphasis of the Lutheran Brethren, and I think it was a wise emphasis. Maybe we've, over the years, gotten a bit slack on that. But yeah, that's why you'll see in Lutheran Brethren churches, there's a much smaller membership roll often than in the general Lutheran church, right? A lot of times, almost everyone in the congregation is a member, whereas in Lutheran Brethren churches, it tends to be a minority or a smaller core that is actual members of the church. Because yeah, again, we want that kind of living, confessing membership. So that's important, yeah. And then those members vote on things that pertain to the church. Finally, then yeah, I guess we have a Presbyterian style church governance to some extent, right? And again, the teaching ministry is like the main thing that we're talking about here. That's like the central part of what the church is, and there's a lot of extras that are good and glorious that reach people. We're not saying it, but of the teaching ministry, we have the governance of the elders. And it's a plurality of elders, so multiple elders. So again, we have the congregation, and then we have the elders who deal with a lot of things on there, and they kind of rule the church, not as lords, but as shepherds. And then the pastor is not a separate, king above the elders. He is one of the elders, and I personally like to see the elders as being over the pastor and giving from the congregation the right to preach, or to say that you're here. I think that's the safest way, especially because pastors come and go. The elders are normally drawn from the local congregation, and they're stable and they stay, and they have to pick up the pieces, and so they should have, in my mind, more authority than the pastor. Maybe not on scripture and teaching and stuff, but they do have this oversight of everything, and then that's again what their big job is. And we're working on some of this, that they're supposed to watch over the teaching, watch over what's being taught, and engage in this ministry and engage in the care of souls, and that's their big task. I kind of emphasized this last time, that it's not to be CEOs. It's to care for souls. It is a soul caring job, often bringing their wives along with them. So this is really that's where it kind of ends. So pastor is it's not like pastor's king, the elders are like the Senate, and then the congregation is the democracy kind of thing, like a republic. Really, the pastor is just one of the elders on the elder board. And of course, just kind of like how I said with Peter, there's that natural influence of a pastor. It's not a sort of set in stone influence, and it would be right for the elders to say to a pastor, you are teaching falsely. I love in the Dutch Reformed Church that I kind of was going to, the elders often came and shook the hand of the pastor as he went to the pulpit. And this was just an old Dutch tradition that signaled to the congregation that the elders approve this man to speak. And, I think that, again, speaks to their authority and their role in protecting the sheep. They have to protect you from some preacher who's teaching a false doctrine, and it's really important that they stand up and know their scriptures and know the word well, and they can lead the flock and defend them, because there is a lot of false teaching out there, and these elders are called to know God's word and to be ready to stand up. This is totally a different sort of thing, but I know in one of the churches near that I taught the kids at, they had some guy walk in one day who was, screaming profanities in the middle of the service, and this is almost like a physical sense of what could be like the theological sense. The elders got up and took them out of the building, hauled them out, and in a sense, that's where the elders are for. They're there to see a man who, if a man comes and teaches wrongly, get him out of here. That's their job, and it's sometimes a hard job to protect the sheep. It's not an easy task. It's not all about authority. It's mostly about responsibility. That may be where I should leave it, so you understand that this elder job. I know this wasn't supposed to be an elder video, but I think it's puts things in context a bit better. You know, elders are not these kind of these great rulers, or they just get a bunch of power. No. So this is what it says in Hebrews 13, verse 17. Obey those who rule over you, and be submissive, so sure there's authority, for they watch out for your souls as those who must give an account. This is the deal for elders, and something that we, is indeed scary. That the souls under the care of the elders is nothing like a CEO. They have to give an account before God for how they took care of the flock. It's a weighty and heavy task, a task with a lot of responsibility. And a man should take up the role of elder with fear and trembling. Of course, trusting in the mercies of Christ as well. But yes. Anyway, I hope this helped you a bit. Opportunities. Okay. Here's the deal with opportunities. There are plenty of them. And the deal is, if you see something else you want to do, that should just, the church is here to help you grow in your gifts and your ministries. And there's so many hurts and pains and aches, and it's not just limited. Please never think it's just limited to the elders. There are many ways in which we can tap into your great giftings and your love for the Lord. And we have ushers and communion preparation, but there's we do all these community events, and we're always lacking in volunteers, or it's the same few volunteers that do it all the time. So there is so many things that you can be involved in. Maybe you want to start an evangelism team. We're thinking of doing that. So I don't want to just necessarily throw it, here's the things you can do. We can maybe talk about that in our final class. There's heaps of events that we both basically announce every week anyways. But there's just so much to do, and we want to encourage you to not see this as just the pastor does his job, and the elders kind of do everything, and some people who are extra spiritual do some other things. No, the whole congregation is called to be engaged and to be involved and to be seeking ways that we can bless those around us, bless the church as well, and to care for one another with whatever giftings the Lord has given you and the way that he's given it to you. And so, anyway, we can talk more about that in our actual class. Hey, blessings. The Lord be with you.